board, Ms. Hudak, Mr. Cullen, and Mr. Gross, still signed an $18,000 voucher, even though the State Controller's Office said that is questionable. He should not be charging the town as a town attorney and or as an outside consultant. That's something we can do today, yet it was not done. That's $18,000 that could have been saved. I prepared reports here that anyone after this meeting can come look at where legal services are questionable. I had sent you over and over an Excel spreadsheet to review that. I have heard nothing.
I haven't either.
Right, to curtail this spending. And in the 3 months I mentioned it, you're talking over $60,000 that it could have been saved. So once again, I have to say, 46% tax increase, no one can stomach that. I feel for the library, I feel for the museum, I felt for them last year, I felt for them the years before. They apparently seem to be the first one on the chopping block, just as you said. They are private sectors that is funded by this town and by us. We need to review what needs to be funded first. Next step is, at any job level, at any employment agency, at any business, personnel is the biggest chunk of your budget. Unfortunately, we now have to dig into the personnel. And unfortunately, people may lose their jobs at a time like this. That's not something we want to do. But if we, as a board, in the last 2 or 3 years we've been here, had followed the basic procedures that the New York State Controller's Report had asked us to do, watch our spending, watch the services, put things out for RFPs because that saves the town money, we could now fund the library. We could now fund the museum and the Humane Society and things like that. But unfortunately, we're 3 years into this administration, and that has not been done, and I continue to fight it, and will continue to fight it. It's not, as a matter of fact, I'm going to continue to fight it even more now, because now I have support from the New York State Controller's Office supporting what I have said for the last 2.5 years. Thank you.
And let's make sure that we say again that the New York Controller's Office report that's being referenced, that was referenced at the last meeting on September 23rd, 2010, was a confidential report. This board was told by the Controller's Office to keep it confidential because we have the right to respond to it. That's why it's confidential. So this board was told to keep it confidential. We were given a sacred trust by the state, by New York State, by the Controller's Office to maintain confidentiality. That confidentiality was breached by the supervisor and by Councilman Yee, who had written an email to us right after we received the confidential report that indicated that myself, Councilmember Gross, and Councilmember Cullen were going to leak it. And that was fascinating because there was no way that we were, or at least I know I was, and the other 2 members of this board were going to leak it. And certainly, if Councilmember Yee generated that email, I thought that it was pretty sure that he wasn't going to leak it. Well, apparently, the definition of leaking a report does not include having the supervisor state it out loud, but only certain portions they wanted. So realize that you have a supervisor who violated a trust from New York State. Does that mean that one day he's going to violate your trust out there? What do you think? Because that's what I think. Yes. I think that right now, when I hear that people, this report, and it's being touted as a report that is gospel, well, let me tell you something. I'm not going to reveal what I heard after certain council members met and the supervisor met with the State Controller's Office. But when that final report comes out, I can promise you a couple of things. Number one, the recommendations will be followed, okay? And as far as Councilmember Yee waiving the 5 inches of paperwork that he said we never spoke about, yes, we spoke about it. We spoke about it in an executive session, which is also confidential, but I'm sure that got out too. I will tell you right now that you have to all look out, you have to think to yourselves, if someone says that something's confidential and you are in a position of public trust and you reveal those confidences, you've got to think long and hard about that. Remember that, everyone, because that's what really kills me.
Well, this was sent to me, okay, by a friend of mine. That being said, I note that the report is marked draft and it has the comment, "not intended for external distribution," on the top of each page. Again, this is language that's probably intended to protect the town and not the controller. However, an argument can be made that it might be better to wait until the report was finalized before publishing the findings, unless urgent action is required.
And who is that friend?
May I finish, please?
Who's the friend? Is it
Urgent
the state
action.
comptroller?
Ms. Hudak.
Ms. Hudak, please, no one interrupted you. Please extend the same courtesy to Councilman.
So when it says, "unless urgent action was required," I have deemed excessive spending as urgent action. I have deemed that before this letter was sent. I have deemed it before the Controller's report was published. And now that the Controller's report has been published, you blame me because it's a draft report. That draft report will not be changed. That draft report shows numerous deficiencies on how the town spends money. I found it to be urgent, and I found it that this board act on it immediately. And because we're in a budget crisis, and something needs to be done immediately. So fault me, you may, for distributing a draft report, but that report tells it like it is.
Thank you, Councilman. And when Councilman Cullen and I met with the State Comptroller representatives after issuance of the report, they were here to confirm their facts and figures were correct, which we verified, and they reported to us that there would be no substantial changes in the report. In addition, with respect to the Sacred Trust issue, that opinion that Dwight read is from a Wall Street lawyer and a friend of mine who I asked to take a look at it. And the confidentiality, the community needed to know what the comptroller had determined with respect to $1.8 million in gravy train spending on an anti-competitive basis by Councilman Hudak, Councilwoman Hudak, Councilman Gross, and Councilman Cullen. So I won't participate in any cover-up, Liz, and I have a Wall Street lawyer to back it up.
Michael, if I could just, I haven't spoken.
Yes, go ahead, Bob. Councilman Cullen.
I wouldn't have had a problem discussing the report at the end of this month when it becomes a public document. There were some issues that they needed clarification on when we met, as far as office space here for the town attorney. I mean, there's a reason he doesn't have an office space here, so they weren't aware of that stuff. But next month would have been perfect and completely fine to talk about it. And as Councilman Hudak says, any recommendations that they have going forward, I'm willing to support. And, we'll look at every issue that comes forward. And there are many issues. It's not just the town attorney issue. There are other issues, too, in the report. So that's something that we'll just have to talk about at the time. Just going back to the budget, as far as the assessor's office, the thing that I found amazing was that, your budget was due September 30th, and you met with the county in the beginning of October. I mean, if this was something you wanted to do, or if there was a viable plan, you should have met with the county prior to submitting your budget to see if it's legal, if it could have been done, because the county just doesn't have the resources. And from what I understand, they do not have an assessor, the county. So I don't know who would be doing our assessments. So without having an alternate plan, just to eliminate a department completely is, I feel, completely irresponsible.
Well, Bob, I respectfully disagree for this reason. Number one, as I mentioned in my report, or thereabouts, I've been chatting with the county, and the county's been chatting with us for the past 2 years. Doesn't come as any surprise. They budgeted last year. In my budget, I budgeted this year to facilitate the transition. In addition, as I understand it, on a legal basis, and I believe that my observation, which was hypothetical in nature when I met with the county folks at the latest meeting that you referenced, which wasn't, by the way, about even this issue. It just came up. It was about the Humane Society issue and the possible acquisition and sale of land to the Humane Society. But with respect to whether a municipality has an obligation to fund a town tax department, the answer is no. Under the law, if we choose to defund, we could defund. I'm not saying we would defund immediately. We're talking in a hypothetical. But if we were to defund immediately, by law, the county would have to pick it up. As contemplated in the past, last year, the town tax assessor, who at that time was named William Ford, would have become a county employee as contemplated. And his salary would have been $60,000 a year. And the town would have been out of the property tax business. That was a realistic possibility at that time. It remains a realistic possibility. If we choose to defund, we can. And there it is.
Yeah, but the county's not gonna do this for nothing. I mean, that's the other thing, too. They have an obligation to the whole county.
That's right. That's
So, I
right,
mean,
Bob.
it just goes back to there needs to be a plan, there needs to be discussions. I also, like Councilman Hudak, are very concerned about the homestead. You know, you're saying we won't lose it. Other people,
That's right.
intelligent people told me who deal with this stuff that we would lose it. So, I mean, we're not sure if we are or not. If we're gonna lose homestead, it's definitely not worth getting involved in this because there's a significant tax savings for people with having our two-tiered commercial and residential system. But it's like I said, it just goes back to there had to have been a plan before you just defunded them. And now we know that there can be no assessing done by the county, and there's still no money in the budget, so I don't know what's gonna happen January 1st. Because
Well-
you have no money in there for the assessor.
No, I have 25,000 for allocation for a transition, which I contemplate from January to May. And again, if the town employee becomes a county employee, is designated as a town agent for homestead purposes, and the county executive, and I don't mean to characterize or mischaracterize anything the county executive may have mentioned, but during the discussion, as I understood it, the county executives recognizes that the county's already in the tax receiving business, and they could do that in short order. The tax assessments in Southeast are at 100%, and we have an outside consultant, who can facilitate the transition.
The only thing is, the
It's possible.
county executive you were talking to, January, there's gonna be a new county executive, one of two people, so we don't even know what either one of their position is about taking over something like that, so, like I said, I'm not saying I'm against looking into it, but there needs to be a plan, just like with the consolidation with the village. There needs to be a plan before you jump into something and sign a petition, or, agree to do something. You need to look at all the numbers and see if this is something that's worthwhile or not, and if
Sure.
there's a cost benefit involved.
I agree. And with respect to 2 years ago, the plan was, with respect to negotiations with the county of the possibility of consolidating tax services with the county. The agreement was in connection with the landfill consolidation, the county garbage landfill at the town site, the $60,000 annual salary to a county employee designated as a town agent was going to be paid for 4 years as county expense as part of that arrangement. When I was growing up, we used to talk about horse trading, good old-fashioned horse trading, and once in a while, the party who's interested in horse trading has to pony up, quote-unquote. So the county was going to pony up for 4 years, which meant that we as a town were going to receive property tax services at no cost to us for 4 years. I thought that was an attractive sweetener to the landfill consolidation proposal. Ultimately, of course, this board passed on it. I'm not commenting on the proprietary, whether that was a good idea or a bad idea. I'm just saying we had an offer, we declined. Now we're making another offer because the county wants the Putnam Humane Society property badly, and there's a possibility for more good old-fashioned horse trading, and that's what I'm contemplating.
But that's another issue, which I just found out tonight, sorry, Roger. It's with the members of the Open Space Committee waiting for you to come to the meeting, and, they were saying that, I guess, whatever money is generated from the sale of the Humane Society, that cannot be used as a horse trade with an assessor, or it can't be used to fill the general fund, that it has to go back to open space. So that was something that I actually learned tonight, and I wasn't aware of that. So,
Ultimately-
because you have that anticipated coming into the general budget, and so to fill the budget line, which, from what they're telling me, Will's not here, unfortunately, that legally that can't be done, so.
Well, I love those folks and respect them. I thank them for their community service. Ultimately, the bond allocation